Hello? Yes. Good. How you doing? I am not in the market for any vehicles. No. I'm good. Thank you. None yet. It's none of your business what I've done with my life.
None yet. Oh, did you do this? Oh, did you do that?
Oh, did you buy one?
Can I update my record? Where did you buy it from? How much did you pay? What type did you get? What was your salesperson's name? Did they have children?
None yet. Sales. I love it. But some people just don't get it.
Is that your motocross number, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Matt, this was a gift from a cousin of mine. She lives in New York. Someone I, grew up with, her and I, and we're pretty close.
Yeah.
And this was a Christmas gift from her. I love this hat.
That's nice. Looks good on you.
Love this hat.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it has to do with the number that I use on my dirt bike when we're out there riding.
So what's the significance to 584? There's got to be some significance.
Yes.
There's a story for
yes.
this.
Yeah, so I'm from a town in the Dominican Republic, so tiny that if you ask anybody in town for someone else's number, they'll say, let's say you go, hey, what's Diego's number? 6177. Because the town was so tiny that everything else had the 584. Area code 584.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
Right?
okay.
And then the last four digits.
Right.
So every number in town, it's 584.
Okay.
And then, the last four digits may change.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from.
That's cool.
It's such a tiny town that there's no other prefixes. It's just 584.
That's like how people in New Hampshire, use the 603 as our kind of symbol, and that's good. I love the symbolism there. Brings you back to those DR roots.
Yes, man. But, folks, we are back on another talk with Diego. Matt and I, you know Matt already. If you've been following the channel, you know Matt already.
Maybe, yeah.
You saw him the other day. We promised that we were going to sit down and have this conversation about floating.
Mm-hmm.
And what is floating? How do you came across floating?
Yep.
And this is it. This is the conversation that Matt and I were going to talk about floating. I experienced it, and I think...
Yeah.
Right? So, because we did something.
Right.
Before I experienced what floating was. I didn't know what it was. And then I experienced it, and I said, Matt, we can't release it. There's so much more that I now know about it, going through it, and some of the feelings that I went through that...
changes the entire dynamic of the conversation.
Yes. So I reach out to Matt. I'm very happy that Matt took the time to come over and do this thing all over again. But just again, I give you guys an idea who Matt is. Matt and I, we've known each other for over 10 years.
Yep.
We worked very close on many different projects. We spent a lot of time together in sales, technology sales, business development, marketing. So we've done quite a bit. And Matt has a vision for what he wants his paradigm to be, and the people that he wants to surround himself with.
Yeah.
And it's a message that I closely feel myself quite attached to it, because I come from very little. I come from nothing, and it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of commitment to develop a certain lifestyle, and then being able to take all that learning, all of those skills, all of that asset. To me, that's an asset, and package it in a way that's having a significant impact in our local community and expanding throughout the U.S. quite a bit. So that's why I have such a deep respect for Matt. That's why every time we talk, they're great conversations.
Really good. Yeah, we go deep sometimes.
And we can talk about anything for a very long period. Time will fly by.
Yep.
And it's not soap opera stuff. I mean, we've had some conversations that I feel that if some of those things can come to fruition, we can be solving some major problems with the world, with society, and the way we're doing things today.
Yeah, we've traveled together. We've worked together for probably close to 10 years. So it's exciting to be talking with you on a Talk with Diego round two.
Round two,
yeah, round two. But no, I think today we're I think we're going to educate a little bit, right? Like you and I were going to talk, and but I think we're going to educate the audience a little bit about recovery, about floating, and what floating is, and I'll preface it with floating is also referred to as flotation rest, REST. I don't know if you knew this, but the therapy in itself is actually called restricted environmental stimulus therapy. So in other words, you're restricting the environmental stimuli that are coming into your senses, which are the sense of light, sound, smell, touch.
Yeah, the inputs.
Hearing. Yeah, the inputs, right? Yeah. I mean, without any further ado, I mean, maybe we should kind of talk a little bit about what floating is. I'd love to hear about your experience, right?
No, and I'm going to get to that.
Yeah.
And I think that was going to come a little bit later.
Sure.
You're right on. We should start with what this is.
Yeah.
Maybe give us a little bit of how you uncovered it.
It's awesome. It's such a cool story.
Right?
Yeah.
And what took it to where it is today.
Right. Okay.
And then, because once folks understand what it is, some of the things that it can do for you, and then I can tell what my experience was.
Sure.
They may be able to relate a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. So floating is it's like relaxing in outer space, and really the science behind it and what it is you are laying in a saturated solution of Epsom salt. So it's magnesium sulfate, which is your standard variety Epsom salt. And that Epsom salt is in a large bath. Think of a bathtub the size of a queen size mattress, right?
Yeah.
It's about the size of it.
Yeah. It's a capsule.
It's a big
I saw
tub.
two when I went to this place.
There's different styles.
Yeah, I saw two of them. Actually, my wife, she's a little bit claustrophobic.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
So when we looked at the two, she was like, I ain't getting in there.
Yeah, right.
So she opted for the bigger one.
Yeah.
But
it's very, very much like almost like a sauna, the cabin. So it's like stepping into a sauna, but instead of sitting down on a bench, you are laying down in a tub. And that tub is filled with the saturated solution of Epsom salt. It's about 10 inches of Epsom salt. It's about 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt and 10 inches of water.
And by the way, you do float.
You do float.
Like you do float in that much water.
Hence the name float.
Yeah. Because you may be thinking, water? I mean, I'm 190 plus pounds, right? You probably think, you're going to be hitting the floor. Trust me, you do not. You literally are floating in this silky...
Yeah, that's a great way of describing it. It's a silky solution. It feels very smooth and silky to the touch.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Very cool
stuff. Yeah.
So some other points to talk about it. It's heated to 94 degrees, which is what's called skin receptor neutral. So that means that when you're laying in this solution, if you have no light, no sound, no taste, touch, smell, any of those things, you're eventually, because of the temperature of the water being the same temperature as your skin, you eventually reach a point where you don't know where your body ends and the water begins. And that's where a lot of what I would consider to be profound effects of floating start to happen.
Now that you mention that, because as you talk, I'm going to plug in some of the stuff that I was going through.
Sure.
There was a moment about 40 minutes in.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, of floating that all of a sudden I felt my feet touch the end And the first thing that went through my head is like, wow, was I even moving?
Right.
Like, I did not realize that I was drifting slowly in the water.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I feel this light touch of my foot against the edge of this capsule thing that I was in. But I was so gone,
Right.
that I kind of came back to my senses. It's like, but when did I move?
Yeah.
Right? It was so, I was so detached that I was not feeling that drift.
Yep.
Moving to the side as you float in this thing. So
It's wild. It's like a reemergence into the
yes.
body. And then,
Yeah.
whoa, I have a
I
body.
was like, whoa, like, okay. I didn't even know I was moving.
Yeah.
Like, it was that cool.
So yeah, so really, that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. There's different styles of float tanks. There's pods that are clamshell shaped. They look kind of futuristic. There's cabins that are like larger that have doors that you open. You went into the tank, and the tank has like a pod hatch that opens on the top.
Yep, exactly.
And then they also have open pools. Like for instance, a lot of the clinical research that's done on floating is done in a big open pool that's conducted at a research institute out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We talk a little bit more about that, but let me talk a little bit about how I came into discovering floating.
Yes.
I heard about it on the Joe Rogan podcast. So I was listening to Joe Rogan Experience, and I heard him talk about using floating as a regular practice, not only for recovery, because Joe is a big jujitsu and he works out a lot, so he used it to recover his body just from a physiological standpoint, but also psychologically using floating as a way to improve his creativity, to relax his mind, to de-stress. He's a guy who has a lot going on. He does, does a podcast, and he does a lot of stuff. So it was appealing to me when I heard that, and I was like, wow, this sounds like something that's right up my alley, and I think it's something I want to try. And at the time, I was working in corporate America, and I knew that I was like, I need something to de-stress. I was like, this sounds like something I absolutely want to do,
especially in our environment.
Yeah, man, absolutely. You get so caught up in the drama of day-to-day things that involve your ego, and you got to be always on, and you're always, kind of in the story of whatever it is, dealing with all of these little distractions that life throws at you constantly. So, when you're really trying to calm yourself and de-stress your life and slow down and maybe meditate or some of these other things that I'd love to talk about that have resulted for me as a result of doing this floating, it really makes a difference on your whole psyche and your perspective and your demeanor, and you just become a more mindful and present and calm person. And so anyway, I decided I was going to try this floating thing, and I was not calm at the time. I was like, I was batshit crazy. So anyway, I also had some other things going on work-wise, and I decided that I was going to step away from the job that I was doing, from the company that I worked for. And so when I did that, I kind of part and parcel to that was like, I'm going to go try this floating. Right. And so I still remember this, like it was yesterday. This is the coolest story. So I go to a spa in Pembroke, New Hampshire to float on a Monday. Now, this was like a week after I just walked away from like a 6-figure job with no plan. Like I just was like, I'm done. People would call it like losing my mind, but I feel like I gained my mind. And I walked away from this job, and I went and I floated for the first time, and I had an incredible experience. I mean, to put it into words would to be not to do it like an injustice to put it to words. It was very enlightening, and it was awakening, for me in a sense. And at that point, I kind of realized like, wow, I want to take a different direction with my life. It's my story, and I want to write a new chapter. And I decided that I wanted to help people. I wanted to really try to dedicate my life to helping people. And I just discovered this floating thing that I was like, man, this is incredible. And I don't think there's too many places around here that do this. This would be a great way for me to take, my skills of like running a business and, dealing with public and everything else, and my desire to help people, and combine the two. I want to do this. I don't know how that works, but I would love to
be part of it.
I want to be part of it. All right. So that was on a Monday. That following Wednesday, I had a meeting with a career counselor at my alma mater, Southern New Hampshire University. And it was very peculiar and coincidental that they had just switched the person that I was meeting with. Like a week before, this woman that I was supposed to meet with, she got a promotion to some other job. And then I was meeting this guy, Brad. So I go in, I meet with Brad. We sit down for like 45 minutes, kind of get to know you a little. And he says, so Matt, you just walked away from, a corporate job you were with for 10 years. What do you want to do next? And I said, Brad, this is going to sound crazy, but I don't know if you ever heard of floating, but I tried it and it was incredible. And I would love to figure out a way to do something with that. I shit you not, Diego. He says to me, I have 2 tickets to a float conference in Portland, Oregon. I'm looking around to see if there's cameras. I'm like, am I on candid camera? Like, is this a joke? He says, I have these tickets and I can't go because I just had surgery and
out of the blue, you've never met this guy.
Never met the guy in my life, right? And this thing that is clearly not like that well known, he happens to have 2 tickets. I'm like, there's a float conference? Like, what are you talking to me about right now? So sure enough, Portland, Oregon, the home of the weird, Portlandia, and they have a conference on floating where people come from all over the world that apparently have been doing this floating thing since the 60s, and it's been around since the 60s.
Brother, that's why they say when a door closes, another one opens.
Right. Yeah. Do you know how the rest of that quote goes?
Yeah, go ahead.
It says, but I looked so longingly at the door that closed that I didn't see the door that opened in front of me. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, it's so important to be aware of the things that, if you're languishing over, another term that I hear very popular these days is fail fast, right? Yes. And I don't consider anything that I did a failure, but if you're constantly looking back on something and saying, oh, I wish this, I wish that, and you're not looking ahead.
Matt, the minute you decided to do your own thing, dude, my respect level for you just went through the roof.
I appreciate it, man. I mean, my respect level for myself, it was abolishing fear.
That takes a lot. It takes a lot of balls, man, to say, I'm going to just walk away from something that I've been doing for over a decade.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm just
going to walk away. What am I going to do? I don't know. How am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? Who knows?
Right.
But Matt, let me tell you, dude, I'm a big believer in the law of attraction. What you think about all the time, the people you surround yourself with, right? All of those things that some folks may look at it as cheesy quotes, but let me tell you, it's like some basic laws, like the law of gravity. Nothing's going to go up. It's definitely going to go down. So what you think about every day, what you do every day, the people you surround yourself with, right? That you're going to attract that to you.
Absolutely. It's a universal law. I mean, whatever you put out into the universe is what's coming back to you, and I'm a strong believer in that.
Do you think that if you, and this is just a hypothetical scenario, let's say instead of you out of your own decision, right, with such a powerful message to change and help others, right? Let's say somebody would have gone in there to get career advice, but instead of a decision that they made, it was that they were fired. They would have gone in there with a completely mindset, desperate.
Yeah.
Right? That conversation about floating might have never even come up.
It very well might not have.
Because that person would have been thinking about that door that just closed and looming around that door that just closed.
Yeah.
And probably interrupting the other guy when he was about to say something about what you want to hear all your life. But you kept looking back at that door.
It's incredible. It's powerful.
What are the odds, dude?
What are the odds?
Huh?
And that's where.
And by the way, I can't make it here. Free tickets.
It's serendipity. And when you say like see a door that opens in front of you, absolutely. Buy the ticket, take the ride.
Yeah.
I said yes, I'll take those tickets, and I flew out to Portland, Oregon by myself, and I went to this float conference on my own, not knowing a soul. Just flew by the seat of my pants, and you know what? It was one of the best experiences of my life. It changed my entire paradigm. My perspective on everything shifted. Just like that. Yeah, it was incredible. So awesome, I go out to Portland. I meet all these people from all over the world. I make new friends from all over the world. I learn all about this industry, the history behind it, how much it's helping people, the scientific research that's being done, and the challenges that they're running into, and the regulations, and all of the industry insider. And I get so enamored by it that I decided, you know what? I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to take an apprenticeship, and I'm going to learn even more about floating. I'm going to learn how you actually open and run and manage a float center. And at this point, I had my mind made up. I'm going to open a float center. This is what I'm going to do, right? So I did that. I stayed there for about 10 days. I got to know some of the real big players, some of the people who pioneered the float centers in the United States, mostly in like the Portland area. And I took an apprenticeship. I got a pool and spa operator certification, and I came back here rip roaring and ready to go. I was ready to open a float center. And I started to put all the things out there that, really were necessary. Like I made some brochures. I got a logo. I got a name. I registered the name. I started to do research on a location. I started to scout areas in the state. I aligned myself with other float center owners in New England. I went and met with them. I researched their businesses. I picked their brains on everything I could find out about floating and opening a float center. And not only that, I actually worked at a float center in Londonderry, New Hampshire, the float center that you floated at. Yeah, right. Yeah. I worked there for 2 months. And when it was all said and done, you know what I really ultimately learned is that now's not the time for me to run a float center. And that's all right. Fail fast.
Right. Yes,
right?
Man.
Fail fast. And it was, I would not trade the whole experience that I had for anything in the world, because one door opens, another door closes. And another door opens, because everything that I've done since then has been a result of what I've done since I started on this journey. Yeah. And so, I mean, looking back at it now, I discovered this thing floating that now I am a huge advocate for. I have seen firsthand the difference that it makes in people's lives, how it helps people with anxiety, with depression, with addiction, with trauma, stress, you name it. So many different things. It's really helping people. And I just want to spread that. I want to spread that to more people.
Man, I am so happy that you introduced me to floating, because I can relate it to when I get on a dirt bike to hit the track. Mm-hmm. Before floating, I thought that was the only time in which I was in the moment.
The flow state.
In the moment. And with motocross, when I lined up and I hit I think about nothing else but what's right in front of me.
Yep. You have to, right?
Things change so quick. Terrain changes so quick.
Yeah.
Going on a jump, the slightest miss throttle or a rock that may kick your bike or something can cost you a bone or a rib, a collarbone, whatever, right? But something similar happened when I floated. But it was different, though. Because now, since I wasn't thinking about what's going to happen in the next, what am I going to see in the next turn that I need to respond to within milliseconds, it gave me the opportunity to really think about what I want to do, the legacy that I want to leave behind, What is the meaning of me being a father to an 8-year-old? You see, so it was a different state, and I was really able to tune in to the things that really that mean something to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess goosebumps, because I walked out of there with my priorities now realigned.
Yeah.
When I walked out of that first session, my priorities were not the same. Matt, because my family's Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up in a religious family.
Yep.
And I don't really go to church like that.
Right.
You know, I believe big time. My wife, so I lean more on my wife for her to do the heavy thing. And the reason I say this is because I want to give you a little bit of context with the mentality I had going into this.
Mm-hmm.
Based on basic conversations that we've had, I was going into floating with the mindset of meditation, maybe some alone time to do a little bit of praying, right?
Sure.
That was the mindset that I had going in. And I don't want to call it a mistake, but I was occupying my mind with thoughts before going in.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it took so long for the effect to kick in. Let me tell you that the first half hour I felt nothing.
Yeah.
But it was because I was focusing on the wrong things.
Right. I know exactly what you're saying.
But as you lock yourself in this box with no light, no sound.
Now, mind you, you're not locked in.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You can open the door whenever you want.
You can open the door.
But there's no sound. The walls are built in a way that nothing comes in.
Yeah.
It's quiet.
It's very quiet.
Very, very quiet.
Peaceful.
So, but I had my mind occupied when I walked in.
Yeah.
With that mindset of, okay, let me take this time to do a little bit of praying, and which I did but I wasn't. It probably because I didn't know what I was doing. It's the first time.
Right.
But that disconnection, the moment that I didn't know where I was, that I talked about earlier, and I touched with the drift of the water, I touched the side.
Yep.
That was like a comeback moment. Wow, I was gone. Right? Thinking about some of the things that I was mentioning. Priorities.
Yep.
What are my priorities? What is the legacy that I want to leave behind? Who am I? Right? What are some of the things that I need to continue to work on?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I have a kid. You know, who am I as a father? How can I improve that? Like, I was thinking about stuff that you don't get the chance to do when you're running the race.
The day-to-day minutia. Yep.
Dude, I got 350 things going on every day.
Right.
Right? I keep myself in this high gear mentality every day, all day. I have some aggressive goals that I need to achieve in a short amount of time.
I know we've talked about them.
Yeah.
A lot.
So so every day I wake up with such a massive vision that's all I think about every single day.
It's hard to shut that off sometimes.
And it disconnects you from some of the things that are foundational for you to build this vision on top of.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have that foundation, you just... Dude, it's like turning the engine on a boat.
You're building on unstable ground.
Yes.
And that leads to collapse.
So that was what floating did for me that day. And we're going back. We have a schedule again. My wife knows the whole thing, but we're going back because now that I know a little bit more of what it is, I think I could get into that meditative stage a lot quicker.
Yep. Yeah, they usually say 3 times. Like the third time is the charm. That's kind of the rule of thumb in the float industry. So a lot of times, like if you go there, they'll sell packages, like special packages for like 3 or 5 floats. Because to do it just once, it's unlike anything you've ever done before. You know, so when you get in there, it's very much like initially it's kind of a get to know you, like figure out what this sensation is, what this feeling is, and and maybe you got thoughts running through your head like, oh, what am I going to make for dinner tonight? And oh man, I got laundry, I got to do all of these little and the longer you lay there, the more you just start to kind of let those thoughts drift away and maybe focus just on your breathing or just kind of start to go inward.
You nail it. We are just like any animal. You bring a dog to a new place, what are they going to do? Get familiar with everything. Sniff around. And then after maybe a couple hours, then they find a spot where to lay on.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me. I was trying to explain the water was just a different thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never, this thing.
I'm floating on it. And then, that sensation alone.
While I was sitting, getting you are touching the floor. But the minute you
lay back.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And I'm like, whoa, right?
Yeah. It's like one of my favorite feelings.
I'm really floating.
Yeah.
Like I'm really floating on water. So.
Yeah, for anybody that's ever been to the Dead Sea, it's a very similar, the Dead Sea give you very similar.
I heard that before too. Yeah. I never been. I got to put it on my bucket list.
Hypersalinated environment. That's what they call it.
Yeah. But it was, Matt, I can tell you that for me, that's what it gave me.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a place for me to go back into so often. Because as I was mentioning, we can get caught up. Sales, building this, family, projects that you're working on, things that you're doing with, you and I, we have spent how many hours today on business development and working on a strategy.
We started at like 9:30 this morning.
Right?
Yeah.
And
2:30, 3 o'clock.
It's about 3 o'clock right now. Yeah. But just to kind of give you an idea, and it's a
Saturday.
weekend.
On a Saturday.
It's on a weekend. So,
we don't stop.
But that also gives you a little bit of that you got to keep your time occupied. It's one of the big issues with a lot of younger folks nowadays, that they're not spending their time wisely.
Yeah, like I'm not going to toot my own horn or anything. Like, this is just for me, but like I don't play video games. I don't have cable TV. I read and I work on my goals. Yeah. I exercise. I plan out my meals. I read books that I think are going to help me better achieve my goals and help me in life. And I try to spend time with people. Yeah. And not spend time with my face in a screen.
Yeah. Matt, and that's why I consider you to be one of my close friends and someone that I reach out to all the time.
I appreciate it, man.
Because I want to be surrounded with like-minded individuals that can understand why I do things the way I do them. Right? I can understand why you do things the way you do them because we think a little bit alike.
Yeah.
Right? And we have a lot of things that we're passionate about. Some people look at me as a workaholic. I'm like, I ain't working. Like I'm
You're happy.
building.
I see you in your garden, man. We just made smoothies earlier. Like if that's work, then sign me up.
Sign me up. Exactly. So I have gone the route of doing things and creating a lifestyle that it doesn't feel like work.
Right.
And I hear people talking about retirement. Like there's no such a thing. And by the way, if you're waiting for 60, 70, 77-year-old...
You're doing it wrong.
To start doing what you're passionate about...
Take it from me, you're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong.
Start now.
Yes.
If what you're doing right now doesn't make you happy, then stop doing it.
Yes. Start doing things that fulfill you.
Right.
Because... Trust me, there's no such a thing as retirement.
Life is short, man. What did I say to you when I saw you this morning? The first thing I said, and it's the first thing I say every day when I wake up.
You happy to be another
Thank
day?
God I woke up breathing today.
One more day.
I got another day.
One more day.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. When I wake up in the morning, another day that gives me the opportunity to continue to work on what matters to me, my family. I every day do things that are going to have a positive impact on what my goals are. Family, right? Mm-hmm. Building that lifestyle, long term. I'm not about the short term game. I'm all about the long term game, for sure.
Yeah.
So, Matt, dude, thank you very much for taking this time.
Absolutely.
Guys, before we close this up, I do want to put in a couple of plugins for a couple of places. I had a phenomenal experience at NH Float in Londonderry. These guys do a great job. They take good care of you. I mean, because when you get out of there, you are in this calmness stage. They have
a little vulnerable, you know. You just want to relax.
Just want to relax. They have this cool little area.
Yep. The post float room.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Some tea, some stuff, and you can, chill there and
salt lamps, reading, coloring books if you want.
If you want to color, because you do come out of there with this sense of calmness,
creativity, and calmness, and
you have a clear mind.
Yeah, for sure.
You do have a clear mind. I can tell you that in the business that I'm building, that we spent some time working on today, while I was there, I had more clarity of what I wanted to be and how I wanted to be on my professional life. Started thinking about some of the things that I can do there too, and family. So you do. It is beneficial when you go into that room to pick up a piece of paper and try to put down some of these thoughts that came to you, or some of the things that you experienced while you were in that room, because they can be very valuable to you.
Yeah.
And you don't want to forget some of those things when you step out into the real world. When that phone starts ringing again, when that email starts coming in, when those text messages and somebody needs these, somebody needs that, and so. But NH Float, I had a great experience with this guys. Drew, Drew was there when I went in. I can tell you, knows his stuff. And
they're in the process of building a third room. They have two right now. They have a cabin and a tank, and they're building another cabin, all custom built cabin. So Drew's the guy that I worked with for 2 months, and I consider him a good close friend. He really knows what he's doing, and he provides a great experience, especially for first time floaters and people that are not familiar with the practice. This guy eats, sleeps, and breathes floating.
I love it.
He's got salt water in his veins, and that's in a good way.
Yeah, no, man, I can tell you that this place was spotless. Clean. I mean,
so clean.
I'm going back. It was a great experience. Drew and your team, thank you very much, guys. Phenomenal job. I'll put some links or something down so you can find them easily and quickly.
Yeah, and we can also provide some links to. I know I'd mentioned at one point the study that was recently done. So they have done a professional study on the effects of floating for people who suffer from severe stated anxiety, and they found positive effect on people. And so that's like that anxiety is the most pervasive mental illness in the United States, or actually, I'm not sure if it's the entire world. It might be, but anxiety is one of the things that most people suffer from. And I mean, it'll probably take another podcast to get into the scientific reasons behind it, but we can provide some of that research as well, and we can link that study that was at the Laureate Institute for Brain Research in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Dr. Justin Feinstein and his team conducted a study on floating. So,
awesome.
This was great, man.
Matt, thank you very much. Guys,
thank you.
One last thing. There's a great project that Matt's working on, Recoverydia, that we're going to bring in a whole conversation around that. But I just kind of want to let you know that Matt and I were doing a lot of things together. You're going to see him here quite often. We have a couple things that we're working on. Recoverydia, it's one of them. We have a huge passion for sustainable food, local food, and organic practices.
Beekeeping.
And keeping bees.
Yep.
So we're going to bring a lot of that to this channel. And once again, this was just another talk with Diego. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Diego.